let's begin with the Nigeria story. I mean, as the world was glued to television screens, as the French people, 3.7 million of them, were marching on Sunday against the terror attacks in Paris last week, details were really emerging of the horror of what had happened in Baga in northeastern Nigeria last week.
I think you're seeing a fair amount of anger, Dan, that so many world leaders, including several African leaders from Francophone countries, were seen marching against terror on behalf of European terror, when indeed there was such an incredible massacre as is being reported in northeastern Nigeria. As many as 2,000 people we're hearing, and just days after that, a little girl blowing herself up in a crowded area, killing 18 people. A lot of anger, I think, because there was so little being reported from northeastern Nigeria. A lot of information has been very difficult to verify. Obviously, it's very difficult for reporters to get there and very dangerous as well. But when you see so much attention focused on the French killing, so much attention focused on those suspects, hours and hours of rolling live coverage, and then barely a mention for Nigeria, where as many as 2,000 people dead, very surprising and also a lot of disappointment. But you can sort of understand why, because it is such an incredibly difficult area to penetrate for journalists.
Lately, what have you picked up, Robin, about what is the government in Nigeria saying about what has transpired there? I mean, we're having headlines here in South Africa today, in some of our dailies, speaking like from the survivors, saying we were wiped out like insects and bodies strewn all over the place. What has the government of Nigeria said?
I believe that's partly the problem, is that the government of Nigeria sounds like it either is not fully aware of the terrorism problem, or it's trying to downplay it to the point that it's almost laughable. The Nigerian government says that those reports have been massively inflated, that only 150 people died. But Dan, this is not what we're hearing from the ground. Amnesty International, groups like the United Nations, and indeed senators from northeastern Nigeria, eyewitnesses saying that yes, wiped out like insects, towns razed from top to bottom, and thousands of refugees fleeing to Chad. They tell a very, very different story. And perhaps if the Nigerian government was less focused on its elections and more focused on trying to keep the entire country safe, and indeed informing the public of exactly what is happening, and perhaps accepting help from groups like the United Nations and others who've expressed horror at these attacks, then the situation could improve just a small bit.